Write the world-changing book that will help grow your personal brand and your business as it makes the world a better place. Welcome to the Author's Corner, hosted by Robin Colucci. Every episode, we bring you some of the most successful authors, as well as other industry experts, to share some inspiration, motivation, tactical strategy, and fun. We'll also talk about the challenges and trends in the publishing industry. Don't get stuck in the idea phase. Join the Author's Corner today. Start writing the book you've dreamed about.
Hello, and welcome to the Author's Corner. I'm your host, Robin Colucci, and today I'm very excited to share with you my guest, Dr. Don McGrath. Now, Don is a retired engineer, a corporate consultant, and an avid rock climber who is super into fitness. If you met Don in person, you'd be amazed at how trim and muscular he is for who's got about 6 decades behind him. And Don also shows coaches, consultants, and experts how to define, create, and effectively market their products and programs so that they can make more money and help more people. So we love that. Now, I asked Don, I've known Don for a number of years. I've even helped him write a book. And I asked him to be on the show today because he shared with me, and I want you to hear about this, about his brilliant new program that he's created to help you create a 6-minute webinar. And I think this is a brilliant technology. I don't know about you, but I personally, one of my least favorite things about webinars is how long they are, right? I don't need to listen to you for 45 minutes to make up my mind all the time about whether I want to buy something from somebody, right? So Don has come up with this 6-minute webinar, and it's a really brilliant technology. It actually includes an app with it that has some features that I'm going to save for the interview. You'll hear all about it in the interview, but it's a brilliant technology that's helping hundreds of entrepreneurs already to create powerful and effective marketing messages that speak directly to their perfect clients, rapidly moving them to action. So I think this is a super exciting idea. And the reason Don came up with it is because he's seen too many coaches, consultants, and experts struggle with their marketing. And he became committed as a result to creating a world where they find marketing simple, easy, and fun so they can have the lifestyle that they desire and deserve. So this is going to be a super episode chock full of information. So grab your notebook and let's go talk to Don. So Don, welcome to the Author's Corner.
Thank you so much, Robin. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm just so excited. It's been so great to reconnect with you, and I'm excited about today.
Me too. I mean, I've always enjoyed our conversations, and I was even thinking about it today, and I'm trying to remember because we met so many years ago, and I'm trying to remember. Did someone else connect us, or how did we initially meet? I think it was somebody.
You came to I wrote my first book was 50 Athletes Over 50, and it was
a
50 interview series that Brian Schwartz was orchestrating, and he had you come be a guest speaker at one of our trainings or something. So I think that's how we first connected.
That makes perfect sense. I'm sure that's true. And then just for the benefit of our listeners, we actually went on to work on a book together where you, Don McGrath, the engineer, authored a novel, a fable. And so that was a interesting adventure.
Yeah, because at that point I had written 5 books, and they were all nonfiction. They're all like, I'm a linear thinker, like, right? And I wanted to do a leadership fable. At the time I was doing some leadership coaching. I thought, how cool would it be to have my own leadership fable? And so I was like, well, who could help me with this? And I reached out to you, and you kind of, and it was quite interesting. My wife still jokes sometimes about how she would hear me in my office, like interviewing myself as if I was one of the characters in the book, which was totally odd for me and for her too.
Yeah. You were a great student. And I think that, I think you did a really good job. I mean, it was a big stretch for you,
to
switch that into that other mode.
Yeah, uncomfortable, like trying to be the woman head of engineering, and then try to be the Carl who was the head of manufacturing and the CEO, like getting into their heads. And how I remember you challenging me, Don, she would never say it that way. You're right. We had some fun.
We sure did. And so now, as you are ever the guy with new ventures, and the reason why I invited you on today is that you started telling me about this new approach to the webinar that really speaks to my heart and preferences in many ways. So tell us about this amazing new avenue for people to share their information and generate revenue of the 6-minute webinar. Tell us, how did you think of this? First of all, how did you think of this?
Yeah, I'll go back to, I think it was about a year and a half ago or so. And I had a company called Speakers Pathway, and we did a lot of speaker training. And so we were doing a speaker training event in Phoenix, and we expected quite a number of people to be there, and only 12 people showed up. So, and I knew that only the day before. And so I said, well, how can we make this special for these 12 people who took the time and showed up? And myself and Jim, the other co-owner, were like, well, maybe we can have everybody give a talk. Like, not just have this be a training thing where 1 or 2 people get, but let's have everybody. But in order to do that, the talks had to be 6 minutes. And so I went back and I revamped the whole training, and I pulled out, I was like, okay, what can go? And I came up with a process that I trained people through. And at the end of 2 days, they had their 6-minute talk, and they actually gave their 6-minute talk. And then we voted on kind of who was the best. And these were talks to move people to action. These are not education. Yeah. These are not lectures. These are to move people to action. So they actually got voted for if they move people to action in the audience. And people love that so much. One of the people who's a clinical hypnotist, they began using that 6-minute talk at networking events and started getting clients like, yeah, she came up to me. She's like, and not only that, but they want to know who my coach is. So, and so she was
even better.
Yeah, she was bugging me over and over again. Like, when are we going to do that training again? When are we going to do that training? And we were doing other things. And then the pandemic hit. Then the pandemic hit. And we were trying to figure out if we're not going to do our next event, what are we going to do? And so one of the members of my team, Bill Heinrich, said, that 6-minute speaker training, what if we turn that into a webinar? And immediately it was like 6-minute webinar. And that was the birth of it. And so we've taken that, we've created an app that makes it really easy. You answer 40 questions and it writes a 6-minute webinar script.
Wait. Back up. Wait, you provide 40 questions, and an author who maybe wants to sell a course along with their book or something, they could just answer those questions and the app writes the webinar?
It writes the webinar script.
What?
There's 12 steps that we've come up with. There's introduction, there's future pacing, there's the problem, there's your struggle story, there's the secret. We've got 12 steps that are the basis for moving people to action. And we have word count limits that get you to under 800 words. And it writes the script, and then you go in and tweak it a little bit and make some of the language your own.
Wow. And then you use that script. Does this involve generating slides, or like what's the...
So we have a template that we suggest, and it's around 14 or 15 slides max.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we have a template, hardly any words on the slides.
Yeah.
One image per slide per section about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the slides are there to support the emotion you're trying to evoke with your words. So the script is primary. Mm-hmm. The slides are secondary. And sometimes people get all hung up around the slides. And here's the thing, the 6-minute webinar is great, but what we find is this process gives people such incredible clarity. They're using that same language in email copy. They're using it on landing pages. They're using it in live videos. They're using it like everywhere.
Oh my gosh. I'm my mind blown. I love what you said about using the slides to evoke the emotional response. That's brilliant. I've never heard that one before.
Well,
and like the words for the information, but the slides, like adding that visual aspect to get them into the feeling, because people buy based on emotion.
And so you want to connect emotionally. And so the script is primary, and you'll tweak it and come up with your own language. And then you marry it with the slides, and we've got a process for how do you know how to advance and then how to record, and we got all that all in the training and everything. But yeah, you really want, and we give examples of here's a image that evokes this kind of emotion. And what's really interesting, Robin, is you could almost take the slides that we have in our template and almost use them, right? Because there's the secret, there's the promise, there's the problem, there's the suffering, there's a pain, there's a solution, there's the 3 keys. I mean, it's like people don't have to change things very much.
Wow. Now, so one of the conventional wisdoms things I've heard about webinars is like the higher the ticket, the longer the webinar has to be. Do you still subscribe to that? And if so, what is the 6-minute webinar perfect for selling?
So yes, absolutely. So I refer to the trust bucket.
The trust bucket, yes.
So I can only, if you're new to me, I can only fill your trust buckets just so far in 6 minutes, no matter how good I am, right? So the kind of offers that we like people to use and that we suggest people use are some sort of a strategy session, a discovery call, a free discovery call, a free trial for something, a lead magnet, or selling something under $200.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Sell things in the $200 range. Now, once you have raving fans and they'll buy anything you have, your trust bucket's at the brim already.
Right.
So if I come out with a 6-minute webinar about a new program, it can be a high ticket item because my trust bucket, I built it over, months or maybe years with you.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so I would imagine, do you have a lot of people who've taken this program who are authors?
Yeah, quite a few. Some are purely, they consider themselves an author, and many of them don't consider themselves an author, but they have books. Right.
And that's more like the coach consultant who has that authority piece book. I mean, that's a lot of our listeners. So say more about that. And like, how have you seen people like that use the 6-minute webinar idea? And, tell us about some of the experiences that people have had.
So we had one woman who, when she first started working with us, she was like doing a million things, right? And here's the beauty of the 6-minute webinar. It's one thing. One promotion. Like, that's it. You can't do like, oh, I do this and I do this. And so,
right. Yeah.
Right? 6 minutes is gone. So she decided what she wanted to promote was a podcast launch course that she had put together. And so she was in our pilot group, actually. So we were still early in the development of 6-minute webinar. So she went through the pilot. She created a 6-minute webinar. She posted it on Facebook and her social media with the call to action. And she was selling it for like $200 or $197, something like that. And she sold 4 of them within like an hour.
Oh, nice. That's great.
So people are using these in their social media. They're using them on their web pages. Some people don't even do the webinar. They just use the copy they get in talks,
interesting.
in other ways.
That's another thing that occurs to me, because with a full-blown webinar, you have to have, some extra supporting software, like maybe GoToWebinar, and, there's a big file with a lot of memory, but a 6-minute webinar, you're right. Like somebody might just come across that and just sit there and watch it on Facebook, just right there.
Right there. And then they all begin, welcome to my 6-minute webinar. Give you the 3 keys to. So what we find is that's just magic, right?
Yeah. Commitment level. I can commit. Yeah, totally. I'll give you 6 minutes.
And you're going to teach me the 3 keys to weight loss.
Right.
Okay. I'm either in or I'm out. And repelling all the wrong people as quickly, like in the first 10 seconds, is magic. Get rid of them. They're not right. And then you get the people who want it, go, tell me more. And then this next part is the future pacing, where you lead them down this trail of moving to action if they're the right fit.
I love that, because it's so true. It's like you're almost afraid to click on a video, right? Because you think it's going to be, maybe a short video, and then you realize you're going to have to watch 30 minutes before you get the answer to the one question you're just curious about. Yeah. So that's really smart.
And there's, and I know that we see it a lot in the coach and consultant and expert space. We love to give, we want to help, and we give a lot for free. And we do free web classes and free this and free that, right? Free webinars. And we give a lot, probably more than we should, away in those. The thing is, who do you think you attract when you do a lot of that?
People who don't want to pay.
People who want stuff for free.
Yeah.
Right now, really successful people, what do they value more, time or money?
Time.
So if in 6 minutes, they learn your credibility story, they learn your struggle story, they know you understand the problem, and you make them an offer, done.
Yeah.
Done.
And it's also true, the more successful people tend to make decisions faster.
Yes, like in or out.
Yep.
In or out.
Yep.
They don't want to mess around.
Exactly. There's not a lot of hemming and hawing, and I don't know, I got to think about it. And also, you're so right, because you come in that under $200 range, and it's already, it's not a big ask.
No, it's like $200. I'm curious. I'll pay if I'm successful, $200 if I learn one thing.
Yeah.
If I learn one thing that helps me on business, I'll turn that 200 into 2,000, right?
Yeah.
By that one thing. So
now, have you seen people use this? I mean, I could imagine this also could be good for fitness coaches. I mean, you've had a lot of work in the fitness space. Have you found that this translates over that direction as well?
Yeah. People who work in wellness, people who work in dentistry.
Oh, nice.
An oral surgeon.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we've got such a broad range. It's if you solve a problem for someone, if you're an expert in something and you have a solution to a problem that you figured out, that's kind of the criteria.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So it could be anything. Oral surgery, I hadn't thought of, but it makes sense, right? Like a little bit about the philosophy, understanding some of the problems people come in with, and, come in for a consultation. Let us take a look.
Yeah. And his special sauce is that he has a special anesthesia, like concoction, and a special way to reduce the pain, like during the surgery and then afterwards. And so he's got this special system that, if you care about saving your kid on some pain and suffering, it's perfect.
Yeah, no kidding. That's so interesting. I love that. And I'm just thinking, like, it kind of reminds me of, we have a program to help people write and publish a booklet, right? And it's like that quick turnaround authority piece, low commitment ask. And, you're not asking for six or 7 hours of their time. You're asking for maybe 30 minutes. And it's very cool. Don, my wheels are turning. I'm like, we should package them together somehow. The booklet and the 6-minute webinar package.
You have another publisher that we actually made her special offer of buying things in bulk, but she has every one of her authors go through the 6-minute webinar book.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it's such a great tool to really connect with your audience.
And what we find is the process of answering those questions. And those questions are not answered in the same order with which the webinar proceeds.
Oh, interesting.
They're begin with the end in mind. So actually we start off with easy questions like, what's your name? What problem do you solve? For whom? What can they do after, and then about what's the call to action? And then we kind of start building on the problem and the promise. So it's the script pal, we call it, our app.
That's brilliant. And actually say a little bit more, because the thing I heard is one of the biggest content pieces that you're asking them about first is, what's the call to action? So tell our listeners a little bit about your thinking behind that, because I can tell that's a pretty genius move there.
Well, if you ever, one of the books that changed my life is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Mine too. Yeah.
And in there, and if you're listening to this and you haven't read that book, go read it. You can probably get it out of the library. I don't know.
I second that motion. Yes.
Yeah. And one of the things that Stephen Covey talks about is begin with the end in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, when they go to create a course or a webinar, they'll create all the content pieces, all the learnings, and all about themselves. And then at the end, it's like, well, what am I going to offer?
Yeah.
How you've constructed the wrong webinar.
Mm-hmm.
So really the thing to do is like, what am I going to offer? What am I going to offer them? What's the value in that? What are people going to get from this? What are they finally going to understand? What tool are they going to receive? What are they going to be empowered to do?
Mm.
And so, begin with the end in mind, which is the call to action. Actually, the first question we ask is your name, because we want to get people into the
you got to ask an easy one first. Because if they don't know their name, it's probably not going to work.
And, and get them interacting with the tool. And then into the call to action.
And that's why I said like the first content question, right? Yeah. Like you're getting the foundations out of the way. So so you developed this app now? Is this where your engineering skills came into play, or?
Yeah. So
what is all this about? This is fascinating.
So we did these boot camps. We've been doing them about once a month since August. And I think it was the second or third one. We realized we had a hard time teaching two different elements within the 3 hours of the boot camp. And there's the framework piece, which is the 12 sections, the right order. And then there was the content. Like, what is the content? Like, how do you polish up the words so they have maximum impact? And we just couldn't teach it all in 3 hours. So Bill Heinrich, who's the co-creator, and I got on the phone. We were like, how do we crack this nut? And I woke up at 4 a.m. the next morning. I got it. I said, I know how to do this. I sat down and I created an Excel worksheet that asked questions that I went back to our 6-minute webinars. And I kind of reverse engineered it, came up with the 40 questions that when asked, then populate the script. And that was the beginning. And then we had somebody turn it into a Google app. So it's a lot nicer to use.
Yeah, I was going to say, how about the actual phrasing? Like, is that an AI editor or what is that?
No, it's pretty simple. We have the framework, which are probably about half of the words they're just set up. They're just like, what would it feel like to?
Right. It's like Mad Libs.
Yeah. And so, obviously.
Remember Mad Libs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can go back and you can edit the script. You can change, if you don't like the words that we're using in the framework, you can change those. But you know what? I'd rather focus on the answers that you give.
Right.
Make sure that those are right. People sometimes are like, oh, the 6-minute webinar, I heard another one. Mine kind of sounds like it. It's like, well, the framework is there.
Yeah.
The thing is, who's going to sit and listen to 6 of them in a row? Nobody.
Right.
Nobody. So they're not going to know that some of these setup words in the framework are the same in yours. And
really, the framework that you're describing is pretty standard when it comes to an effective webinar, right? Like, I've taken a lot of webinar classes, and the elements that you're sharing about are the same elements I've learned about from Frank Kern and, a lot of these big webinar people, right? Who have a great track record. So, you're definitely operating on really sound principles of what a effective webinar contains.
Because that's that works, right? And I learned a lot from a lot of the speaker training, a lot of the webinars I've gone through. I've kind of taken all the things that I've learned, and I put my own spin on the things that I've found through my own experience and working with clients, what's worked for them in their speaking, and things I've done with TED speakers, and then kind of created this unique product.
It's so cool. So where do people go to check this out?
6minutewebinar.com. So not the number 6, but 6 minutewebinar.com. 6minutewebinar.com. Go check it out. We do boot camps about every month. Next one's coming up in June, but pretty much every month we'll do a boot camp. We've got an online course. It's just
so exciting.
It's so fun. Yeah,
that's really great. That's a great domain too.
It's a good one, right?
Right.
So I kind of got the app bug. So once we had ScriptPal, the thing is, like, in a workshop, we can only teach one kind of offer. So we teach the strategy call. But not everybody does strategy calls.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Not everybody does them. And so we're like, how do we crack this nut? How do we crack this nut? I woke up at 4 a.m. one day and I said,
That's your hour, Don.
That's my hour. That's my hour. And I said, I got it. I'm going to create OfferPal. And what it does is it supports creating 5 types of offers. Come on. You answer like 10 or 12 questions, and then it comes back with there's a structure to offers. There's a structure to offers that work. And so I kind of did the same thing I did for ScriptPal. That's really a lot easier than ScriptPal. And it creates it can create an offer that you can bolt on to your 6-minute webinar for a strategy session, a free trial, a lead magnet, a low value offer, like under $200. I also came up with, I took the offers that I use on my own long form webinars and from the stage, and I created one that's for high ticket sales too.
Wow. And so these are also apps where you just fill in and now is all of this, are these separate things that you sell, or is this all part of the 6-minute webinar package? Or
so
you can see I'm going to the source and doing my shopping here. Okay, continue.
So the 6-minute when you come to our boot camp or when you get our online course, you get access to ScriptPal. It's just you get access for, I think it's 30 days is what we're currently offering. So you go in, you can have it for 30 days. We offer something if you wanted to get a whole annual access to that app, because some people are like,
they want to do multiple. Yeah.
I want to use this in everything I do. OfferPal right now, we have that for our VIP club, which are the people who really embraced 6-minute webinar. Mm-hmm. We're in discussion about possibly including that in some of our other courses. So stay tuned.
Very cool. Very cool. So gosh, and you haven't been doing this for very long then. When did you say you first launched this?
So the idea, in fact, it was almost like to the day, like about a year ago to the day of when Bill said, what if we took that 6-minute talk training and made it a 6-minute webinar? First time he uttered 6-minute webinar was about a year ago. And then we kind of worked on what would this look like? And we toyed around with it for a couple of months and figured out where we were going to go with it. And we did our first boot camp in August. So it hasn't been that long.
Yeah, that's so cool. Where do you envision this going?
Well, I was just talking with Bill about this. What we would like to do is we would like to arm every solopreneur with this capability, like in the world.
Yeah, no kidding.
In other languages and that kind of thing.
Oh, very cool.
Long term.
So you're going to create other language versions?
Yeah. Oh,
that's exciting. What are you doing first?
Probably Spanish.
I think that's a good one. Yeah.
Probably Spanish, because we think, not everybody speaks English.
Yeah. And there's a huge Spanish speaking market, even in the US. Yeah. So
we want to get it into as many. I think our biggest challenge is it can be used for so many things.
Right.
That, where we need a focus, right? So,
yeah.
So we are picking out the kind of first people that we're looking to work most with. And it is those people in the expert space, solopreneurs, coaches, experts.
Mm-hmm. So the same expert who would be writing like a nonfiction big idea book, who has decent experience, they're wanting to grow their brand, they want to grow their business. Maybe it's their first foray into webinars, or maybe they've done webinars in the other way and it's just exhausting.
That's what we see. We see the people who appreciate this most are the people who have the scars on their backs and who.
I was going to say, because, if you just say to me, I think you need to make a webinar to promote that, like I just feel like physical pain.
In months. Here's the fact about webinars. Okay, I'll ask you the same question I'll ask a lot of people. How long does it take you to put together a good webinar and like launch that first one in good confidence?
Months. Painful months.
And how, just like scale from 1 to 10, like that first one you do, how does it do? How does it convert?
Terribly.
And you need to do them over and over
Multiple
again.
iterations.
Multiple iterations, and often you get the wrong people there at first, right? Because you're trying to invite everybody. Okay, that's the problem. So the people who've been down that road, they go through 6-minute webinar. They're like, this is the coolest thing in the world. This is going to save me so much time. I don't have to become a copywriter. I don't have to hire a copywriter. I don't have to do any of that business, right? I don't got to create long slide decks. I don't have to, schedule a time. I can just send this out in an email. So it really is those people who've been down the road and have the scars see the most value in it. But I will say this, those people who are kind of just getting started, they don't know what they don't know. And those who have embraced it have been like, oh my God, this is really, we're seeing them getting
they don't even know how bad it can be.
Yeah. How much
and how awfully painful it can be. Yeah. Yeah. And it's so frustrating because if you're trying to sell high ticket, right, and the first webinar you make is freaking hour to 90 minutes, it's really exhausting. And when it doesn't convert, it's horrifically painful.
It's very, very
and to have I think something too, I don't know how many of our listeners can relate. I bet you quite a few, because the hard thing is no matter how you do it, there's always that iterative process to really get it dialed into the point where you could do, have an evergreen, reliably selling webinar. But how many iterations are you going to be willing to do? Like people say, oh, you start doing internet marketing, it's like an online ATM machine, or you're like printing money. It's like, well, not until you've put in like some serious effort, right? I mean, this idea of it being a get rich quick idea is just completely upside down. And when you think of like, imagine having to redo a 90-minute webinar over and over and over again and keep getting lousy results. Like, there's very few people who are really willing. I certainly wasn't willing to keep going. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go back to sales conversations because I can do those.
I'll call it soul crushing, right? It's soul crushing.
Yeah.
And 6-minute webinar really eliminates a lot of those barriers, right? You can send somebody a link to a YouTube of your 6-minute webinar. You could just do a live video with you doing your 6-minute webinar. You can use it for email content. It just saves so much time and so much more. And you know what? We are all experiencing some form of online fatigue.
Right. Yes.
Right. And so where I would say a year and a half ago, I would be more willing to attend educational things like that weren't like business critical than I am now. I just spend so much time in front of the tube that I think there's an element to that. The curiosity factor around 6-minute webinar is incredible. People go, what?
I think that's really true because like yesterday is a perfect example. I was on Zoom on back-to-back calls yesterday from 11 a.m. until 7:30 p.m. And I barely had time to, eat and stretch my leg. I barely had time just to take care of the basic needs of the day. And, my dog was completely freaking out. But it's like the last thing that you want to do at the end of a day like that is sit in front of a 90-minute webinar.
Yeah, that too is soul crushing, right? You just can't do it. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, even if my best friend is like, would you come to my webinar? I'd be like, I love you, but
if you did it in 6 minutes, I'd watch it.
If you did it in 6 minutes, I'll be there. So true. So brilliant. And I'm also thinking about, you're a big speaker. You've been doing speaking for years and you worked with a lot of speakers. Tell me a little bit about, like, what have you seen about how the pandemic has impacted speaking? Because obviously we're not doing so many live events. And then I'd love to hear more about how this kind of a tool can help those people, right? Because a lot of our listeners are authors or want to be, and that also means they're speakers, by default sometimes. So tell us a little bit from that angle, from the speaker's angle.
So the pandemic, it killed a lot of speakers. I mean, people that just gone, all events. People had $40,000, $60,000 worth of speaking events queued up, gone. Like overnight in an instant on March 21st or whenever it was last year that happened. The other side of that, and that hasn't really changed, right? The people are starting to do some things, but a lot of people are still very, very hesitant, rightly so. The other side of that is the online speaking world blew up. There's summits, there's so many places for you to go speak now and reach people you could have never, ever, ever reached. And when I say speaking, I use the broadest term. Okay, so this could be a networking event. This could be an online networking event. Believe it or not, that's a speaking event, in my book, because you're looking to make meaningful connections and move someone to action, move the right people to action. To me, that's speaking. So there's so much opportunity out there. And here is the typical thing that someone does when they come on, especially the authors and coaches. Okay, so you get your 1 minute, you get your 2 minutes, whatever it is. Hi, I'm Don McGrath. I'm a best-selling author. I'm a speaker, and I'm some kind of coach. You just blew the 7 seconds you had to get everybody's attention.
So okay.
I forbid them. I forbid you to ever say that again.
I love this. All right, so I got to hear it now. What should they be saying? Because man, you just gave the canned speech, right? That everybody gives.
Everybody gives it, and so everybody's glossed over. So you've done your best to make you look like everybody else. Okay.
Yeah.
If that's what you want, then great. But I think what you want is you want to stand out. So it's really funny. What I now use is I now say who I help and why I do it. So I use my mission statement and I use my vision statement, which is it's buried there in the 6-minute webinar, but who you help, what you do for them, and why you're at it. And it's astonishing. It's like crickets when I do that.
Well, I'm feeling so good, Don, because I do what you do.
And it works.
Yeah.
People going, hey, they're in the thing. Oh, let's connect.
Yeah.
They know immediately that I know it's about them. And it's not about
me. Exactly. Because that's what people are interested in, is themselves.
Yeah. As soon as I hear a speaker or whatever, I go, my eyes go back in my head. I sometimes have to just put my camera off and I go, no.
What's funny? Sometimes just try, if we ever get back to cocktail parties, just walk around and ask everybody questions about themselves and do your best not to say anything about yourself. And you will walk out of there and people will be like, Don is the best conversationalist.
Right? That's like in a crowded room. If somebody says Don McGrath, under their breath, I can hear them.
Right.
My brain is I'm searching for my existence in the universe, right? And so it's really, for me, it's about me. And so for someone to get up and say it's about them, I go, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So that is the.
And that's just how we're wired, right? Because we're in our world. So in our world, it's all revolving around our experience and our awareness. So
in the 6-minute webinar, you do get to say who you are and what your business is, but not until halfway through the webinar.
Nice.
You don't even say, I'm Don McGrath. I help so-and-so with so-and-so so they can so-and-so. You don't even say that.
Right. Yeah.
It's all about the problem.
You just start talking about them right away. Yep.
Yeah, it's all about them. And then you do tell your struggle story before your credibility story. So this is how it sucked when you had the problem that they now have.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they're empathizing with you. Yeah. You were there before. You get it.
Now, let me ask you about this, because this is something I've always wrestled with. So I'm going to tap this expertise now that I've got you sitting right here, because the struggle story, right? I don't have the struggle story of the typical wannabe author, because my first job out of college was with a New York Times bestselling author who taught me how to write books. So I was never in that space of, I don't know where to start, right? or whatever. So and I would imagine not every expert is teaching what they know because they overcame the same problem that their listener has, or that their potential client has. they overcame other problems, but not the same problem. So what do you tell people? Because I know I'm not alone here. What do you tell people who are in that kind of a situation?
Well, often we can help people because of the struggles we've had.
Right.
And it may not be the exact struggle, but it's the struggle that got you to where you are doing what you're doing today.
Mm.
And because everyone, and I learned this from the speaker training that I took from pretty much everybody. And I don't know if anybody used this term, but I think it's very helpful when you tell a story about yourself and you paint the exceptional underdog story.
Ah, yes. Everybody loves the underdog. But the exceptional underdog, I got to hear this. Tell me more.
So this is where you start off as the underdog. You start off not knowing very much. You started off sometimes wandering around or maybe going down some wrong roads. Or maybe
I've done plenty.
Yeah, you've done it, right? So you kind of went down some wrong roads. Maybe you had some preconceived things. Maybe you got over some internal battles that you've overcome and that where you found success. So when I tell about my struggles, people, we like that, right? Mm-hmm. We like that. It also is the arc of a story, right? Hero struggles. And when you can do that, people empathize with you and you have their attention because they don't want to feel like you're up here and they're down here.
Right.
If you're like, you can paint the picture like you were like below where they are or at where they are, they're like, yeah, you understand my problem. But then you wouldn't be any help if you didn't learn something, right? So then the arc has you become exceptional because I did this and because these actions I took and because I went and sought out this and because I went and did this. This is what I discovered. And with my newfound knowledge, I can help you. That's the exceptional.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Interesting. So the story might not be about the exact same struggle, but I think what you said that was really key is it's the struggle that led you to come up with the solution.
Yes. That's the relevant struggle, right?
Yeah.
And it also is the reason that you're passionate about helping these people that you're helping today.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because we want to know the why. I want to know the why. Why is Robin so passionate about helping authors the way she does in her own very special way? Like, why? I want to work with the why as much as the what and the how.
Yeah, maybe more so, right?
Maybe more so. That's what builds the most. When I do some training around messaging in your marketing, and we need three things. You need your what story, your how story, and your why story. And the strongest brands are the ones that have all three. And everybody has to have a what story. It's what you do. But you never want to be just your what. Otherwise, you compete on price and convenience alone. And there's a how, what makes you special. And then there's a why you do this. And strongest brands have all three of those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes, I know this happens a lot with new authors or, people who are working on their first book. Sometimes I think, especially experts, get caught up in the how so much because they love talking about the how. But it's like if you go too deep into the how before you've got that emotional buy-in from the reader or the listener, it's really not going to be effective. Do you find that same situation with webinar training? Oh, absolutely. If you start giving me all and I got this program and I got that, and it tends to be the people who are early in their journey. So proud of, we all are, right? It's like our babies, right? Like I sweat. It took me years to figure this out and I unlocked it and I've got the 12 steps and right? And I want to tell you all about it. But it's kind of like going on a date and expecting to go get married, right? We need a little courtship here. I want to know what do you even do? What do you even do? Yeah. Yes. Right. Or the first date and you get the entire backstory of their last relationship. Yeah. Right. It's the less is more in a lot of things. You only need to here's the thing is in fact, I just got off a coaching call where we talked about this. We all love to give and we want to give and we want to paint the whole picture. Mm-hmm. The problem is the whole picture probably confuses people. Yes. Because there's no context for it. All you need to focus on is the next step. What is the next step that I would like to take with this person I'm talking to?
That's it. Like, I don't have to worry about beyond that. Just what is that next step? And if I can have the message around that and it makes sense to them and it appeals to them, and then I make an offer, they're going to meet or whatever the offer is.
That's so brilliant too, because one saying that one of my business coaches used to use a lot is a confused mind says no, always says no, right? So if you give them too many choices, if you try to explain your process in too much detail, like you said, before they have any context for what you're trying to teach, then they just shut down because they just can't process it.
They begin to ask all kinds of questions, trying to clarify in their own mind, like, and I call it the wall of yogurt effect.
All right, what? Say more.
My wife sends me out for yogurt. She likes this Valle zero fat thing, right? Go get yogurt, and I'll go into yogurt, and I know what I'm looking for, but I can't find it because there's so many options. And more often than not, I walk out without yogurt. And so overwhelming someone's mind does not move people to action.
Right.
Yes or no questions. Offer, yes or no. That's it. Very, very simple. Mm-hmm. And I know, but I want to offer this and that, and I want to give options. And people, studies show that you give more than a yes or no, your probability of somebody taking action goes down. Yeah.
Yeah. So true. So true. Brilliant. Wow. All right. Let me ask you this. What's the question I should have asked you that I didn't think of, or I didn't ask you yet?
Oh, goodness gracious. What's special about 6 minutes?
Perfect. Give me that answer, please.
So it just turns out to be it's the minimum number of words where you can fit all those 12 steps that are required to move someone to action. Actually, we find that when you first do ScriptPal, if you answer all 40 questions, you end up with around 650 to 700 words.
Wow.
And that's kind of it. That's like minimal. These are not long answered questions. These are like very short answer questions. And so around that 650 to 700 words is like, that's it. And that turns out to be about 5 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. Then you go and you'll add some things to your story and you add a little bit to get it up to 800 words, but 800 words is 6 minutes.
Wow. So, I'm glad you said that, because there was a point during the interview where I thought to myself, why not 7 minutes? So I'm going to ask you that because is there something magical about 6? Is there something particularly beneficial about 6 minutes versus 7?
Well,
or is it just that it happens to be the amount of time you need to hit all those points?
I'll tell you. Here's what I know. We haven't done,
right. Yeah. Anecdotally, I will.
But here's what I know. I know that when you answer the minimum questions in order to get the information you need to walk through people through the 12 steps to move them to action, it turned out to be 650 to 700 words, which is probably around 5 minutes. I know that there's some good 5-minute webinars. Now, I know when you go beyond 6 minutes, it loses its energy. It loses its energy. I can hear one and I'm saying, man, it should just get lost in that story. We're getting lost. It's just
interesting.
I say, words have energy.
Yes, they do.
Words have energy. And when you get used to this, and I've been doing a lot of these, I can feel the energy in the way, in the sequence of words, in the context. And I'll tell you, when it gets to 7 minutes, it just starts losing energy.
Interesting. Yeah.
It just starts losing energy. And usually it's pretty quick to go back and say, oh, okay, yeah, there's some irrelevant things in the story. Like there's things in your struggle story that just are irrelevant. They don't help to move the process forward. There's something you like to say.
So 6 minutes is giving just enough time to get the salient details and the details that matter in, without providing excess detail that bogs it down.
Yeah.
For all those points you have to hit.
Mm-hmm. And also, let's just look historically. Not everyone is exactly 6 minutes, nor should anyone try.
Sure,
But
sure.
it came from 6-minute speaker training, and that's how it got its name. And it's just kind of interesting that the planets are aligning to be, between that 5 and 6 minute range appears to have, I always say words are like dynamite. Let's say I had dynamite and I spread it in a field and then I try to light it. What's going to happen? Nothing. But if I take that and I wrap it in some paper, less is more. When you can, I find this when I go through people's 6-minute webinar scripts and I thrift out words. Often they're like, "Oh my God, that's so much better."
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I just did a blog post recently called "A Picture's Worth 1,000 Words," and talking about how you can use words to create pictures in people's minds so that you don't have to use as many words.
Right.
And that's really similar to what you're saying, because it's true. Like, you wear them out. Do you know Ken Amdahl from
Sounds familiar.
Colorado Publishers Association? He was a big member for a number of years.
That's where I probably know the name from, but I haven't really been involved with them very much.
Yeah, well, he's a great guy, and he wrote a book called Joy Writing, and one of the things that was in that book that I will never forget, and I use it to this day in my everyday work, is that every word you ask a reader to read, and I think we could apply to your webinar, every word you ask someone to listen to takes energy from them to process it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's so important to be economical so you don't wear your reader out or wear your listener out.
And at the end, you want to deliver them more value than the energy it took, right?
Yes.
Right? You want the exchange rate to be great and then be like, the ROI for my energy was wonderful.
Yes. Right. Like that 6 minutes I invested that I can't earn back, unlike money invested, right? But that time I just invested that I cannot get back, I feel like I got a good exchange for my energy.
Yeah. Then you're like, I want more. I got more energy tomorrow. I'm going to pick up you and read your blog post because it tweaked my brain in such a pleasant way today.
There you go. Brilliant. Well, Don, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing about this incredible resource. I can't wait to go to 6minutewebinar.com, spelling it out, SIX, Minute Webinar. And I know you're already helping a lot of people, and I wish you all the best, because I can't think of anyone who wouldn't benefit from this. Like, anyone I could think of would be really, what a great resource you've created. So congratulations and thanks.
You so much, Robin. It's been a wonderful ride, and thanks for having me today and letting me share some things that are going on with me, with you, and with your listeners.
Thanks again for being here.
Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Author's Corner. You're one step closer to writing the world-changing book you've dreamed about for years. To access today's show notes and other helpful resources, simply visit our website at theauthorscorner.com. A positive review would be appreciated. Until next time.